Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre here. So let's just go through a scenario that I'm sure that you've been through before because I know I have. You're looking at a watch, you're learning more about it, you love everything about how it looks and you want to make it your own, and then you inquire about a price or you look at the price tag and you're like, ooh, sticker shock, all hopes of owning the watch goes away. Today we're going to be doing the opposite, looking at some watches that on the surface look fantastic, and when you look at the sticker, it doesn't really have the same effect and seem, I think, look more expensive than maybe the price tag would indicate. Of course, we all want to get things for a cheaper price. I think that's human nature to get a deal, but I think overall, looking at the pieces that we're going to be taking just a gander at today, watches that I think do kind of fit that mold of just looking a bit more expensive than what the price tag would indicate. So as we get into this video, there is going to be mostly a reliance on the more affordable range, I would say, just given the nature of watches looking more expensive, you're of course going to have usually a lower price tag as a byproduct of that, but there are certainly some exceptions as you continue to go up market. So I'm going to start from the affordable end and then move our way up. And to begin here, I do think this is one of my favorite affordable watches, and there's a lot of people right now that talking about Seiko going up market, and there's certainly some things around that are true. But there still is a selection of Seiko models that are very true to the original ethos that I think a lot of people associate with the brand, and that is with the Seiko 5 series with the SRPE 5.3, the 5.7, and just some other colorways in this collection. Amazing everyday watches for the money. I think this was the first watch that I've seen kind of in the new resurgence of the Seiko 5 collection that really knocked it out of the park. Fantastic lume. Dial looks way more expensive than what it lets on in terms of the price tag. Bracelet leaves some things to be desired, but you're getting a reliable movement within. Typically these can be found for that $200 range. I know through the holiday season there were some great deals on these, but all packaged together, this is an amazing entry-level watch, an automatic watch that you can get from Seiko, different colorways, and you're getting a lot of the upside that you'll get with some of the Prospects collection in a Seiko 5 package that is also very wearable. So this one definitely fits the bill. Now, when looking at Seiko and what they've been doing for a very long time in the entry-level position, I think they've almost been replaced or just seen some competition from another Japanese brand that's also under the Seiko Epson Corporation umbrella, which is Orient. And Orient, for their entry-level divers, do a fantastic job of providing some great looks for the money. You could look at plenty of things here. The Orient Mako 2s, you could look as well at the Kamasus, but another one that I think should get mentioned, and I love just the handset, the layout in terms of the dial surface, it just looks really solid and it looks more formal despite not having some more maybe components of the sapphire crystal, is going to be the Orient Kano. Different colorways, a little bit larger on the case size, but when just looking at this watch in person, it just feels more premium. You put this next to a more expensive dive watch, it really does hold its own at the price range of which it's occupying for around 200 or so bucks. There's a lot to like here in terms of going for the Kano. In-house caliber from Orient that I have found has really just competes well with Seiko counterparts as well as Miyota counterparts in terms of performance. They have some new models out that have different dial variations, including a very vivid red, which probably will be the one that I'll showcase here. That is a bit more playful, and you could probably argue that it looks a bit more like a toy at times, depending on what you want. But still very fantastic dive watches for the money. So this next option is going to be from Tiso, and these are new watches that just became available on our website, teddybaldassarre.com, and get quite a bit of new watches coming in at any given moment on our website. But these were ones that stood out for a couple reasons, and one of the reasons was just this idea of just looking more expensive than what they are. First, the price, $375 for a Swiss-made watch. There's something really nice about that, but then also factoring in the design and what it's going for. So these are models that are really emulating late 1970s design from another model, the PRX from Tiso, that also edged into the early 1980s and really embody that overall architecture with the casing, integrated bracelet. And the finishing on it is very good for that dollar amount. You're getting some beveling on the side of the case, really nice mixing of polishing and brushing, very clean dial format with some nice little just reflective finishes with the dial surface, applied markers, and getting a reliable quartz movement within. All that factored in for around $375. I thought this one was a hit immediately when I saw it. I think there's gonna be some people that are gonna want a mechanical option of this, but you gotta like what this thing is bringing together. I think for those people that are looking for this style, which is very much popular right now, you look at any brand out there, many of them are creating this kind of Genta style design that is just being emulated over and over and over again. This is probably one of the best offerings from an affordable perspective to get that. Now, Timex is a brand of almost two stories. On the more affordable end, the watches do look relatively cheap, but that's what they're going for, and they actually are priced appropriately, which I think is the great thing about Timex. But then as you get up market a little bit, sometimes they still kind of have that playful aesthetic that doesn't really demand maybe the price tag jump that you're going to see, or the price jump that you're going to see with their watches. But one that I think is an exception is going to be the Timex Navi XL automatics. These are watches that I think do a fantastic job of embodying the Timex design, which is kind of that affordable door into the world of just really solid looking watches, creating just a simple no nonsense movement within with a Miyota and pricing them around $250 with a variety of different case styles to choose from, dial colors to choose from. There's a lot to like. Also, you could factor in, there's quartz models available for even half of the price of the automatic versions, which is going to even further this, because from the most part on the outside, nothing's really changing. It's more of just the movement that's going to be powering it within. So those 2 points really help this watch, I think, exceed in terms of the looks department and just appearing more premium than, say, your more typical Timex watch out there. Different case treatments that you can find as well, like the IP coated case, I think looks really, really good and looks a bit more elevated in terms of its price tag. Certainly an affordable watch, but I think Timex did a very good job with these. Now, Flieger pilot style watches, it's a design that I think many people want to have to their collection. There's certainly many tiers that do this design well, some with heritage behind them, and one of those is going to be Laco. Laco, though, unlike other brands that are in this general range of, say, $500 to $2,000, which they occupy, they do a very good job at that lower end, towards around $400 with their entry-level options with the Augsburg as well as the Aachen. And I want to mention the Aachen here. Now, one thing I really like about the Aachen, and this is a Type B style dial used for navigators back during World War II. A lot of history behind these timepieces and the making of them, so you definitely recommend checking out a video that I've done in the past on this, talking about the history and what was really the just initial start for looking at Flieger style designs and why they were actually used by many pilots and navigators. I'll link to it down below. But this is more from an entry-level perspective, which I really like. They are housing Miyota calibers, and that really is the main kind of rub with them, but I don't think that is all bad. So you're getting an 821A movement. It does feature hacking, which is, I think, a huge upside, especially when considering just the actual function of these timepieces and how synchronization in terms of on the battlefield was so necessary. Having a hacking feature, I think, is very important. But from a case standpoint, in the dial finishing, very much of what you're seeing in these pieces are going to be the same in some of their higher level watches that are going to be around $1,000. And you can get that at $400 and you're just basically getting a workhorse Miyota movement within. You're getting some great upside when trying to get into the world, and say you're maybe not ready to commit to, say the IWCs of the world or some of the more expensive offerings for watches of this style. This is a great way to kind of get a sampler or a taster of this design language from a great brand in Laco that's doing a great job with these timepieces here. Now, when considering the world of just $400 to $500 range, some of the best watches that you're going to find in this range for looking way more elevated in terms of the price tag is going to be Seiko with their Cocktail Time family. That almost now very recognizable, just kind of rib style finish that you're going to find at the center, different dial variations to choose from. I did a video last year looking at a couple different models. One of them was the SRPB 77, so that's the blue handset, silver dial. And I think that they're just the best watches you're going to find from a finishing standpoint on a dial for around $400. They look fantastic, they do the job, they are a little bit larger on the case sides, but these just watches look way more expensive, and they will really just hold as a nice competition to watches that are double the price on the market. And this is still, I think, Seiko's one of their best entry-level doors into the world of really solid, well-built Japanese automatics. Now I want to transition into the world of micro brands, which sometimes can be a mixed bag. These can very quickly look like watches that wait, why are we paying so much for these watches? And then the other side can be a great way to get, I think, a better product at a cheaper price than compared to some of the big boys, because they're really focusing on what is really going into the materials and can take a little bit more daring risks in terms of their return and investment. And one of those is going to be with the Zelos Nova. So Zelos as a micro brand is very much, I think, connected to their dive watches, but the Nova was a new door into the world of dress watches. And I think both on the front as well as on the back of this watch, you're getting a timepiece that looks way more expensive. First, let's start with the dial. So I want to talk about the Aventurine dial. This is one that is constantly sold out, but you can look at some different Novas, but this is the one that certainly looks the most expensive. If you've ever seen a Longa Saxonia with this style dial, I'm not gonna compare a Zelos to a Longa, but of that overall adventurine kind of style dial, this is a fantastic looking timepiece for the money. For around $950, looking at this thing under the macro lens, it is very eye-catching and just very well done. And then flipping it over, you're getting a Pazoo 7001 caliber. It's a manual wind, which you have no rotor there, so you can really just see all the exposed mechanics, the bridges, and these are definitely one of the best looking movements that you're gonna find in the price range, typically housed in watches between $1,000 to $2,000 on the regular. So when seeing it in a watch sub $1,000, there's even just more upside. It's a non-hacking movement, but from somebody that's maybe not familiar with looking at, say, a manual wind movement and one that's a bit more dressed up compared to the alternatives, this is a great looking watch both in the front and the back. And then moving into GMTs from the microbrand perspective, one that really kind of inspired this was looking at the Baltic Aquascap GMT that I just did a review on. Different color options to choose from, Swiss caliber within, so looking at that So Prod movement that I'm starting to see quite a bit more. And another option as well with Laurier, a great upstart here in the United States, founded by a husband and wife duo. I have not actually had a chance to deal with their Hyperion yet, but I've done a review in the past and a couple of their other models, and overall from all of my hands-on experience with them, they've done a very good job. So the Baltic gonna retail above $1,000 and the Laurier is gonna retail a little bit, I would say, pretty cost effectively in terms of what you're getting there. Swiss movement within, I think of course a Pepsi style bezel, which is going to appeal to many people out there, and I think is very much a need in the marketplace as much as a desire in the marketplace. But these are just two great options from a GMT perspective and very much just stand really well with the competition. Now, as we jump up over $1,000, I think once you get into that $1,000 to $1,500 range, if you're just looking at a watch that looks more expensive, I think the Formax Essence is the go-to watch in this range. I have just continued to be just very impressed with what Formax has been doing. They revamped their dials, they revamped a lot of their designs. They just unveiled a 39mm Formax Essence, which I think is a great news for a lot of people out there that were maybe on the fence for the brand. These are just fantastic looking timepieces. The finishing with the applied markers, you're getting a unique case suspension system, which will help with flexibility on the wrist as well as assisting in shock. There's certainly it's a little bit of a gimmicky feature, but definitely showing that there's no sacrifice there in terms of just cutting corners. In addition, you're also getting a cost certified movement, which is going to be a top grade movement as well. It's going to be running like a top and also looks pretty good for a more off the shelf style of movement. And then I think the real star of the show though is the bracelet on these timepieces. They just look so much more expensive and will hang with watches that are double or triple the price, to be honest with you, which is kind of sad, but very true. Formax does have a lot of industry connections. The founder of the brand, has a family that actually is producing a lot of, doing a lot of OEM work for other manufacturers with bracelets and case designs. So that very much is their secret sauce and what they're able to do, and using a lot of different materials. But the Formax Essence just looks way more expensive than it actually is. All right, so now to move into luxury watches, and this is kind of a strange thing, talking about watches that look more expensive but are luxury watches, but the first one here is going to be the Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meter. This is a fantastic watch for a variety of different reasons. One is going to be, I think, looking at just the landscape, and this is really feeding into the idea. Now, underneath this watch is going to be the Tudor Black Bay collection, which are no slouches at all, but in comparison to a Seamaster Diver 300 meter, I think spec, but also finishing standpoint, it does look more like a premium product, no question about it. And then at the more luxury end, you then have the Rolex Submariners and watches in more of that, say $7,000 to $10,000 range, which is a significant jump up compared to the Omega Seamaster Diver 300. And you have to question, is it actually worth it? On the flip side, you're gonna have a very nicely finished, machine finish, coaxial 8800, a nice power reserve, really good looking movement as well for the price tag. I mean, this definitely is a nice machine finish movement you're gonna find here. And on the front side, ceramic bezel, eye-catching wave dial, and a very nice bracelet as well. I don't think it's necessarily to Rolex levels, but still very good in the price range, and it will hang with the best of them. This is just a watch I think just looks more expensive. From a spec point of view, defense against magnetism, what it's doing on paper, as well as what it looks like with its material and just output. It's a fantastic watch and probably is in the running for maybe the most no-brainer entry level, or say somewhat entry level luxury watch that you can find out there. Now, jumping into the world of dress watches, this is probably one of the most surprising things, because when you consider a brand like JaegerLeCoultre, There's a lot of watches that get considered, but the Reverso is definitely that main product that the brand is offering. We're celebrating 90 years this year, so there's probably gonna be some cool stuff coming down the pipe, but it's very much a loaded collection as well. But I think many people overlooked the more affordable end of the Reverso collection, looking at these small seconds, as you can get into those watches new for $6,000, which yes, is still a lot of money, but when considering the history behind the Reverso design, how it's probably the best conversation starter that you're gonna have in watches in general, with its chassis style case and being able to flip it, the actual watch over, not talking about dual faces because those start getting into the 5 figures as well as the higher complications, but these simple small seconds are just fantastic. I mean, you're not gonna really find a better dress watch for $6,000 with the history behind it, the uniqueness behind it, and really just personifying class with one of these on your wrist. I think these are just watches that look more expensive as you wear this around and just show people what you have. And these are the type of watches that don't necessarily pull attention towards you, but when somebody does maybe inspect and look a little bit deeper, you can kind of continue to wow them with a watch that around $6,000 that just looks more expensive than it is. And then to finally close ourselves out, it's almost just the embodiment of an idea that many people associate with a brand, and that is Grand Seiko. Looking at the Snowflake. Now the Snowflake, despite now there being a lot of other watches, looking at the Four Seasons collection as well as many other limited edition releases that they've been rolling out in the past 12 months that have kind of almost maybe not taken the place, but have maybe taken some of the shine away from the Snowflake. It all really started though with this idea of Grand Seiko's being this crazy level of finishing that you're gonna find in a price for a watch, say under $10,000, you're not gonna be able to beat it. And I think that was very much pushed forward by the Snowflake. The Snowflake with its dial finishing, Zaratsu polishing, and also getting a spring drive movement within, just totally reworking the idea of a harnessing mechanical energy with no outsourced power supply and allowing that to connect with quartz oscillation with no friction. That's just incredibly powerful in getting that kind of quartz accuracy. There's just a lot to like about this thing from top to bottom. You look at a Grand Seiko under the macro lens, I think that's kind of the big thing with Grand Seiko and how they've just been able to be elevated is they just look so great on video, but even when you get one in person, it's almost even furthered. I don't think you can really appreciate one of these things until you get it in person, maybe look at it underneath the loupe. And then I think you get an idea of why so many people associate Grand Seiko with, I know this is a crazy thought, but good value in a luxury watch perspective, and why they're, I think, fastly emerging. Many people are saying they're underrated. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think they finally get their due, but it's very much warranted, and I think the idea that their watches look more expensive than they are is certainly still true. All right, guys, now that is a list here today of watches that I think look more expensive than they actually are. Love to see comments down below. What other watches would you include in this video? I could have to just cut it off somewhere, but those are some of the watches that come to mind for me. In addition, if you did enjoy it, thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Definitely don't forget to do that, because that really does help. I don't just say that as just a repeat thing. That really does help out the channel. Also, definitely check out some new releases that we have on TeddyBaldassarre.com, including that new Tiso PRX, which really, I mean, was part of the inspiration for this video, if I'm gonna be honest with you, just because I think it's gonna be an absolute hit. Love what Tiso did with this watch, and I'm interested to see what they do with this collection as it continues to go forward. But its price as well as the overall style, I think is just a really winning formula. And TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, full factory warranty, so you're not having to pay the bill if something goes wrong. Also, we offer price match, so if you see one of our watches for cheaper at another authorized dealer, you just let us know and we'll give you a call. And finally, 9 out of every $10 that we generate goes right back in the content here, allowing us to foster another generation of watch enthusiasts. In addition, definitely check out the Instagram, stay up to date with the content, also see some great photos of watches as well. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.